Good afternoon, everybody. This is Rick Asbury coming with the Proverbs 3, 5, 6 podcast today. And we're going to pick it back up in Job. This will be lesson number 6 in the book of Job. We're going to finish up chapter number 2 today. We're going to be looking at verses 11 through 13. And so then that'll finish up chapter 2. Hope everybody's having a great Friday afternoon. And, living in North Carolina, you're in all 4 seasons of the year in one day almost. You start out in the winter, then it goes to the spring, then you get to the summer, and then before the day's over, you're in the fall. That's just how it is living where we live. Amen. So, hope everybody's having a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful day today. And, so anyway, I guess I'm going to start out with a song. We're going to be in Job. I already told you that. So, if you want to start finding your place there in the book of Job, chapter 2, verses 11 through 13, all right? And so I'm going to start out with a song. I'm going to go ahead and get this started here. This was from our Jubilee, night 1, back in, I don't remember when this was now. It was last year, sometime in October. So, hope you enjoy this. Amen.
When I was drifting out in sin, I had no peace, no joy within. But Jesus came and made me glad. The dearest friend I ever had. He saved my soul, bless His name. I'll never forget the day He came. He makes me glad when I am sad. The dearest friend I ever had. When Jesus comes, the way is right. For He's the way, the truth, the life. And He cheers me on when I am sad. The dearest friend I ever had. He saved my soul, bless His name. Amen. I'll never forget the day He came. He makes me glad when I am sad. The dearest friend I ever had. Oh, sinner, come to Jesus now. At His dear feet, just humbly bow. He'll save your soul and make you glad. The dearest friend I ever had. He saved my soul, bless His name. Amen. I'll never forget the day He came. He makes me glad when I am sad. The dearest friend I ever had. Amen.
Amen. That was the Crossroads Rescue Mission men last year at our Jubilee. And they're a blessing when they come and sing. Amen. And them men, when they're over there, Mr. Rocky Shelton, he puts them through it. And he don't let them get away with nothing. And they have church every day. And that's a good place. It's Doug Van Fleet. He helps people when they get out of jail. Well, this Crossroads Rescue Mission, it's for drug addicts and alcoholics, and they go there and they get help. So they're a blessing when they come and sing. Amen. David Cordell's on here today. He says, good afternoon, Preacher Rick. Praying for you and your podcast. Thank you, sir. Preacher Joseph R. Porter. Dr. Joe Bob is on here today. He said he's watching brother. And Mr. Parson Pitcher, Mr. Martin, he says, how do? We say, how do back to you, and praying for you. Amen. Praying for you. And so our revival meeting starts this coming Sunday. It'll be the 12th through the 15th. And Evangelist Sidney Weaver. And I plan on live streaming it, the whole thing. All right. And hopefully I'm going to be able to be there every time. That's the goal. All right. I plan on it, but you never know how that goes. But it's going to be live streamed. All right, every service. So it'll be Sunday school. This coming Sunday will be there. I started live streaming the Sunday school anyway, a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, whenever it was. Okay, so that's going to be, and then the 11 a.m. service, we'll probably do a live stream from start to finish. Usually we just pick it up after the festivities, after we go through all the prayer requests and all that. So I don't know. I'm going to see how we're going to work it out. It may just pick it back up like a normal Sunday. I don't know. But anyway, and then Sunday night. But then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. No, Sunday's normal time. It'll be 11 a.m. It'll be 9:45 for Sunday school, or 10 o'clock, whatever. It'll be right in there for Sunday school. The worship service will start at 11. So we'll either pick it up at 11 or, after we get through with all the prayer requests and all that. So, and then Sunday night will be at 6. All these times are Eastern. And then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday will be at 7. Right? So make plans, if you can't be there, to tune in and watch. Amen? Evangelist Sidney Weaver will be there. He's a good preacher. He was our pastor about 3 pastors ago. So anyway, hope you tune into that. Amen? And we're located at 3357 Foston Waco Road in Cherryville, North Carolina. Well, that would actually be Cherryville, North Carolina. We always say Cherryville, and it's really Cherryville. But anyway, I don't know what the zip code is, but that'll get you there. So today we're in Job chapter number 2. We're going to pick it back up from yesterday, and we're going to look at the last 3 verses, 11 through 13. And this is going to finish up the chapter, all right? Amen. So, I haven't felt the best today. Hadn't felt the worst, but I hadn't felt the best. So anyway, feels like I got a frog stuck in my throat, and he's got his legs crossed. Amen. So anyway, all right, let's look at. We're going to start off with the introduction. Now, today, if you want to title this, it's lesson number 6, and it would be the ministry of silence. All right. So we see that Job. This is the introduction. All right. Job's lost everything. Right. His wealth is gone. His kids are dead. His health is destroyed, right? We saw that yesterday. His wife is broken. She told him, just curse God and die. Just be done with it. And, of course, you got to remember, she lost too. It wasn't just him. His body's covered in boils all over, from head to toe, right? Head to foot. And his heart is shattered. He sits in ashes, scraping himself with a piece of pottery. Think about this now. A picture of total devastation. Can you imagine having bull? I've had a bull, right? I've had a bull before, but I've not had bulls that was all over me, and one was painful enough. And so can you imagine taking a piece of broken pottery and scraping all those bulls? You know how much pain that would be? Think about that for a second. Deborah Cordell says, it's live on podcast. I'm going to watch. As long as I'm Lord willing, I don't get sick and the creek don't rise, and it's going to be live streamed, amen, and it'll be me. So, but it'll be on the church's page, all right. Blessed Hope Baptist Church. It'll be on that part of it, all right. Like Sunday, how I recorded on Sunday. That's how it'll be, all right. So now, for the first time in the book, other human beings enter the story. Job's 3 friends arrive. Oh boy. Their names will become infamous later, but in this moment, they do something profoundly right. Right? They're going to come, as we'll read here in a minute, and they're going to do right to start out with. So before they speak, before they accuse, and before they argue, they just sit with him. They don't say nothing, all right? So the passage teaches us one of the most important lessons in all of pastoral care or just being a Christian, all right? Sometimes the best ministry is just being quiet. How about that? Have you ever been around somebody, man, they were just they were just having a bad time, and I don't know if I'm the man with the plan, Mr. David. Ask my wife that; she'll tell you. Anyway, so think about this now. You know somebody, and then they're going through something. And you know what? It might be like a loved one's passed away or whatever the case may be. You don't have words, right? There's no words that you can say to them that's going to help them. So the best thing to do is just to be there. Just to be there. You don't have to say anything. Just to be there. Amen. I've been there, right? I've been around people who they just need somebody there. All right, let's look at verse 11. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that was come upon him, they came every one from his own place. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, Zophar the Nahamathite. For they had made an appointment together to come to mourn with him and to comfort him. So they got together and made a plan to get there, didn't they? We do that sometimes. We'll say, and you want to get together and go visit so-and-so. We've done that. I've done that. I've had somebody to call me and to do that, and I've actually talked to people and to do that, and we've done it. So this first point here would be the arrival of the friends. Okay? They heard about Job's suffering. Now, you got to remember where they live. The news didn't get out like it does today. Today, bad news or a lie will get halfway around the world before the truth puts its pants on. You ever heard that phrase? And it does. So they heard about Job from however they found out. They found out that Job had lost everything. Okay? So however long it took them, now it don't say how long it took them to find out and how long it took them to get there. But they found out, and they got together and said, let's get together and go and visit Job. He needs some company. Amen. So when they heard, they acted. They didn't wait around, did they? They got together and said, we need to go do this. So they came with purpose, didn't they? They did have a purpose when they come. I don't think, this is just my opinion, it's not even in my notes. In my opinion, I don't believe that when they made plans to go to visit Job, that they were going to accuse him the way they did. I don't believe that. I think when they got there and they saw the shape that he was in, and then when Job started talking, I think that's when they started coming up with all what they said. They didn't come to investigate, and they didn't come to gossip. You know what? We got to be careful about gossiping. What does it say? Let's see here. Gossip is the devil's... let's see here. I want to make sure I say this right. Gossiping is the devil's radio. Are you his DJ? Okay? I seen that on a sign, and I liked it. Okay? And I can't remember if I put it on our sign at our church. But anyway, that's how true that is. But they didn't come to gossip. They didn't come to see what was going on and then go tell somebody. They didn't come to judge. They really didn't. I truly believe when they come, they were there to help. Okay? They came to mourn, comfort, and support him. That's what they came to do. Now, we know that didn't happen, right? But their intentions were good. But we all know what they say about good intentions, right? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I have good intentions every day. I have good intentions, but I don't do them. You know, like, I'll get up in the morning and say, man, I'm going to go and, this needs to be done and this needs to be done and this. So I wake up with good intentions on my mind. But guess what? That stuff don't get done. How about you? Are you that way? Do you get up, your mind's telling you, man, you can do all this stuff. But your body is saying, if you do that, I'm going to break down on you. Right? Your body is the last resort, right? You can get up with all kind of intentions on your mind, but your body is the one that has to do it. But anyway, that's what they come to do. Mourn, comfort, support. They had good intentions. Their hearts were compassionate. Their hearts were in the right place. And their motives were sincere. So, that's good, right? Their names matter. So let's look at their names. Eliphaz the Temanite, the oldest, the voice of experience. Bildad the Shuhite, the voice of tradition. And Zophar the Nahamathite, the voice of dogma. Later, their words will wound Job deeply, but they start out sincere, don't they? They do. They really do. How about verse 12? And when they lifted up their eyes afar off, and knew him not, they lifted up their voice and wept, and they rent every one his mantle, and sprinkled dust upon their heads toward heaven. So here, they didn't even recognize him. Think about that. So we see the reaction to Job's suffering. Job was unrecognizable. You couldn't think about it. His suffering had changed him physically. You know what he had, I looked it up and I can't remember what it's called, but I looked it up and it's called some disease that's it's similar to leprosy. I wish I could remember. I can't. All right. That's your homework. You can go look that up. All you have to do is Google it. All right, or ask Alexa or ask somebody. But you can find it. All right. But it changed him. And so it did change him physically. He had bulls all over him. Now I don't know these bulls. Can you imagine having them all over your body? Think about that. It says, yes, every day, but my body closes me down. Yeah, you get up with good intentions. Everybody does. And, you know, but then your body says, no way, Jose. Not going to happen today. So then you say, okay. So he has bulls. His weight, you know, he's lost weight. He don't look like the same person. His grief. All this, it disfigures him. And that's true. When somebody's grieving, like a loved one passes away, or let's say a spouse passes away. Well, the spouse that's left, they grieve. And sometimes they're grieving so bad that it changes their appearance, right? Now, think about this. Okay, now Job's wife, she didn't go through the bulls. She didn't physically have them, all right? But you gotta figure that probably she didn't look the same either. Even though the only time that his wife is mentioned is back in yesterday's lesson. She said, curse God and die, right? That's the only time that we hear of his wife, about his wife. Well, you got to remember, she's grieving too. And so you can imagine what she looks like. Amen? So it's suffering at its deepest level when pain changes your appearance. Hey, I can attest to that. Amen? You be in so much pain, it'll change how you look. Can you imagine? Okay, I want you to go back to when Christ was crucified. Remember before he was even crucified, how they beat him, they whipped him, and they beat him with their fists. They spit on him, and then they nailed him to a cross. So think about that. And so you couldn't recognize him, could you? Well, Job, he hadn't been beat, but he might as well look like he has been. And so he looks that way. So they lifted up their voice, these three men, they lifted up their voice and wept. These are grown men now. Think about it. They're elders, leaders, and respected figures, yet they weep openly. We weep with people too, don't we? I've cried with people that were going through a bad time. I have. Probably you have too. Especially if Preacher Porter and, hey Preacher Sonny, good to see you this afternoon. He says, good afternoon, Preacher. Sorry I'm late. Been on the phone. You're all right, Preacher. But I know y'all can attest that y'all probably cried with people when people were going through stuff. And these men did too. They really did when they saw Job's appearance. They weep openly. They cried loudly. express grief without shame. So it is true compassion that they're having for Job. Amen. Hey, Miss Connie Sue Moore. She says good afternoon, and we say good afternoon to you. We're in Job chapter 2, and we're looking, I'm on verse 12 there. They tore their mantles, okay? So we see that's what Job did, and that's what they do, and it's a sign of deep mourning. Mourning, okay? They sprinkled dust upon their heads, a symbol of humility and shared sorrow, okay? At the time, they were sharing in Job's sorrow. They were sharing in his pain, right? So they are saying, we enter your grief, we share your pain, and we lower ourselves to your ashes. Right? So it's empathy in action. They're there trying to support Job, trying to be good neighbors, if you will. You know, somebody asked Jesus, who's my neighbor? Right? It's anybody that's living around you. It's people that neighbors could be at your church, right? Neighbors are anybody. So these three men did have a lot of sympathy for Job at this time. Verse 13. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was very great. The ministry of silence, okay? They sat with him, not above him. Okay, they sat with him. Not around him, not near him, but they sat with him. Now, I don't know, like if two sat on this side of him and then one sat on this side of him. I don't know how it worked out there. I don't know if they were in a circle. I don't know how they did it, all right? When we were camping, we'd always sit around the campfire and talk and cut up and do all that. So I don't know if they were sitting around a fire. And I don't know if, if they kept the fire going. I guess they did, if they were doing that. Who knows? Maybe it was in the summertime. Maybe it was in the summertime and they didn't need a fire. I don't know. But all I know is they sat with him. Okay? They entered his world. They wasn't there to degrade him. They wasn't there to say, what in the world did you do, Job, to get yourself in this mess? They didn't say that at this time. They shared his face. They joined him in the ashes. They were trying to be good neighbors. They were trying to be helpers, right? And here, look at this. They sat for 7 days and 7 nights. Think about this now. A whole week. Now, it doesn't say that they ate anything. So they sat there with no food. Whether they ate or not, it doesn't say. You know what? When I'm in a lot of pain, I don't want to eat. What about you? When I'm in a lot of pain, I don't feel like eating. And trust me, if I'm not eating, something's wrong, right? Because I eat about every 2 hours, it seems. Probably more than that. Especially if I'm watching TV. When me and the wife is sitting and watching TV, I'm eating some kind of snack, all right? I've got on this kick about the hard Cheetos, the skinny ones. But I do the store brand. I don't do Cheetos, the name brand. And I like to just sit down and eat them. Anyway, but they sat there for 7 days and nights and didn't say a word. Think about that. Didn't say nothing. Have you ever sat with somebody and didn't say nothing? I mean, nothing. Now, me and my wife, when we're in a car, we don't talk a whole lot. Sometimes we do. It's just that we take it by spells. But there's times we don't talk a lot. But we don't go 7 days without a word unless she's mad at me. But I'm being funny there. So can you imagine sitting there for 7 days and nights? You're not saying nothing, and you're not eating anything, and so there's no comfort and no conversation. It's just presence. See, sometimes you just got to be there for somebody. Sometimes you just got to be there, and that's all that the person needs, is just for somebody to be there, just to know. Well, at least somebody cared enough just to come and sit with me. You know, now I know there's a lot of people out there today that, and I'm talking people that, older people, that their family doesn't come to visit them. And so they sit day after day after day with nobody coming to visit them. And I don't know how you wouldn't want to go visit your mom. Now, I understand if you live far away from your parents. You know, you can't be there every day, but you can call them, right? And still, talking on the phone is still, it's still not like being in person, all right? And so just because you talk to somebody on the phone, which is good, but still that person is there by themselves. I've been there before. And it's not fun, okay? But they were just present. That's all that needed to be. They spoke not a word, for they saw that his grief was very great. I imagine so. I can't even imagine what Job felt. I can't even take that in. I have no idea. I can't even sympathize with him, okay? Because I don't know how he felt. You know, it's like a husband losing his wife. When I say she passes away, or vice versa, for that matter. I don't know. I can't sympathize with somebody that's lost a spouse because I haven't lost my spouse. Okay. We have 3 people that I know of that that their spouse has passed away, and I can't sympathize with them. I mean, they're getting along well. Don't get me wrong; they're doing well, and but anyway, but they spoke not a word because his grief. I would imagine his pain was very great. They understood something we often forget. Okay? I'm going to say that again. They understood something that we often forget. When grief is deepest, words are unnecessary. Right? When the grief is so bad, words, you might as well not it's better to say nothing. Really and truly. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not avoidance. And silence is not failure, right? Silence is compassion. That's what it is. You're not showing somebody that you're weak because you're not talking, or you're not trying to avoid them or any of that. You know, sometimes, we had a lady that passed away in our church, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. I went to the visitation, and on the way to the visitation, I was praying, Lord, give me the words to say. Now, I really probably I couldn't say any words that was going to make a difference, right? When I went and talked to her husband, there was really no words I could say that's going to make him feel any better. But it was being there, right? And can I just tell you, the church was packed out. And this lady was a well-loved individual. She really was. She knew a lot of people. She worked at a pharmacy. Okay? Anyway. So that's what it is. It's just silence is compassion. So let's look at what they did right before they did wrong. So later, these same friends will misjudge Job, misinterpret God, misapply theology, and wound Job deeply. Right? They're doing the right thing now, but later on. But here in this moment, they get it right. Right? They do the right thing now. They show up, sit down, stay quiet, and share the pain. See, that's what some people need. This is the ministry of presence. Just to be present with somebody. So the application here, what we learned from Job's friends, oh boy, what we learn right now, all right? True friends show up. Amen. True friends show up. If your friend's going through something, show up. Now, if you live far away from them, now that's a little bit different, unless you got time and you can go and be with them. But at least call them and say, I hear you're having a bad time or going through surgery, whatever the case may be, and I want you to know I'm praying for you. It's like Facebook. I see stuff on Facebook where this person or that person, they're having a bad day or going through something, and they'll say, pray for me. And so I put on there, praying for you. Now, I don't put that on there and don't pray. Do you? Do you put something on there and then you don't pray? What you ought to do is, as soon as you put it on there, you pray. Amen. I can't be there with them, but I can pray for them. Amen. They don't wait to be asked. Right? And we got to go see Job. They don't even, hey, should we call and ask him? Maybe we ought to, should we send him a letter to see if it's all right if we come visit? Well, can I just say, some people you just got to go. Because they're going to tell you, nah, man, you don't worry about coming. It's, don't put yourself out. Just go. Amen. And they don't stay distant, they come. We also see from his friends, compassion begins with seeing. You can look at somebody and you'll have compassion, right? They saw his grief, they didn't minimize it, and they didn't ignore it. Sometimes silence is the best comfort. Words can wound, silence can heal. See, later on, they should have just kept their mouth shut. Because they just did him a disservice. Okay? They should. If they were going to say the stuff that they did, they should have just not said it. I was always taught, if you don't have something good to say about somebody, keep your mouth shut. Right? Presence matters more than answers. Job didn't need explanations. He needed companionship. Right? Grief requires patience. 7 days, 7 nights. No rush and no pressure. They didn't say, what's going on, Job? They didn't. They just sat there until Job started. Ministry is often simple Sit, stay, and share the sorrow. Amen. Simple. So the conclusion to this lesson: Job's friends will later fail him with their words, but here they minister beautifully with their silence. Right? Amen. The passage that we read, it teaches us that the greatest gift we can give someone in suffering is not our wisdom or our advice nor explanations, but ourself, right? Amen. Hello, Mr. Everett Todd Johnson. Good to see you. Coming on at the end today. I'm about done. You don't have to do all that stuff. They don't need it. When someone is hurting, show up, sit down, stay present, speak little, and love much. That's just great advice. Amen. Great advice. Show up, sit down, stay present, speak little, and love much. Amen. So this is the ministry of silence. This is the ministry of compassion, and the ministry Job needed, and the ministry that we must learn. Amen. So anyway, hope you got something out of this lesson today. And I love the book of Job, and it teaches us a lot of things, doesn't it? It teaches us a lot of things, the book of Job. So anyway, all right, hope you got something out of that today. Lord willing, we'll pick it back up there. Next, let's see, I got to look at my calendar here. Next Thursday, we'll pick it back up with Job. But I'll be back on Monday with Message Monday, all right? So hope everybody got something out of this today, amen? And so anyway, thank you for coming on and listening. Let's see, I got Miss Connie Sue says, good lesson, good book. Amen. Mr. Everett Todd Johnson says, amen. Preacher Sonny says, very good, my friend. Thank you, Preacher. Yeah, Miss Connie, I understood what you said. It's that autocorrect, I guess. But anyway, hope everybody has a great weekend. And pray for our revival meeting. Pray for Preacher Weaver, Sidney Weaver, as he comes to preach to us. And looking forward to it. Amen. I need to be revived. How about you? Amen. So anyway, be in church Sunday if all possible. If you're not working, you're not sick, or you're not homebound, your pastor is looking for you. Amen. So, but I thank you for coming on. Until next time, may God bless you.